Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, chapter 12, entitled Dhruva Maharaj Goes Back to Godhead. And today we're reading from text number 28. So Maitreya is beginning to speak here. Maitreya Uvacha. Nishamya Vaikuntha Niyojya Mukyayor Madhu Chutam Vacham Urukrama Priyaha Kritabhisheka Krita Nitya Mangalo Munin Pranam Yashisham Abhyavadayat. Canto 4, chapter 12, text 28.
12?
Yeah, chapter 12, text 28. Maitreya Uvacha. Nishamya Vaikuntha Niyojya Mukyayor Madhu Chutam Vacham Urukrama Priyaha Kritabhisheka Krita Nitya Mangalo Munin Pranam Yashisham Abhyavadayat. Maitreya Uvacha. Nishamya Vaikuntha Niyojya Mukyayor Madhu Chutang Vacham Urukrama Priyaha Kritabhisheka Krita Nitya Mangalo Munin Pranam Yashisham Abhyavadayat. Maitreya Uvacha. Nishamya Vaikuntha Niyojya Mukyayor Madhu Chutam Vacham Urukrama Priyaha Kritabhisheka Kritya Nitya Mangalo Munin Pranam Yashisham Abhyavadayat.
Maitreya Uvacha.
Nishamya Vaikuntha Niyojya Mukyayor Madhu Chutam Vacham Urukrama Priyaha Kritabhisheka Krita Nitya Mangalo Munin Pranam Yashisham Abhyavadayat. Does one more person want to chant online? We've only got 2 here in the audience today.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, please go for it.
Maitreya Uvacha. Nishamya Vaikuntha Niyojya Mukyayor Madhu Chutam Vacham Urukrama
Priyaha
Kritabhisheka Krita Nitya Mangalo Munin Pranamya Shisham Abhyavadayat.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavad Pranam. Can I have a read?
Yes, sure, go for it, bro.
Maitreya Uvacha. Nishamya Vaikuntha Niyojya Mukyayor Madhu Chutam Vacham Urukrama Priya
Madhu Chutam Vacham Urukrama Priyaha.
Kritabhisheka Kritanitta Mangalo
Kritabhisheka Krita Nityamangalo.
Munim Pranami Ashisham Apyabhavayat.
Munin Pranamya Shisham Apyavadayat.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Maitreya Uvacha.
Maitreya Uvacha.
The great sage Maitreya said,
The great sage Maitreya said,
Nishamya,
Nishamya,
after hearing
Vaikuntha
of the Lord,
of the Lord,
Niyojya,
Niyojya,
associates,
associates,
Mukyayo,
Mukyayo,
of the chief,
Maruchutam,
Maruchutam, like pouring honey,
like pouring honey,
Vacham,
Vacham,
speeches,
speeches,
Urukrama Priya,
Urukrama Priya,
Dhruva Maharaj,
Dhruva Maharaj,
who was very dear to the Lord,
who was very dear to the Lord,
Krita Abhisheka,
Krita Abhisheka,
took his sacred bath, Krita, performed, Nityamangala, his daily spiritual duties, Munin, to the sages, Pranamya, having offered obeisances, Ashisham, blessings, Abhyavadayat, accepted. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued, Maharaj Dhruva was very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he heard the sweet speeches of the Lord's chief associates in the Vaikuntha planet, he immediately took his sacred bath, dressed himself with suitable ornaments, and performed his daily spiritual duties. Thereafter, he offered his respectful obeisances to the great sages present there and accepted their blessings. So just in case there's anyone joining for the first time, this is Dhruva Maharaj. He's just been approached by some denizens from Vaikuntha of the Lord's associates, and basically he's been offered to go back home, back to Godhead on an aeroplane. So he's, after hearing from them and getting that offer, he's now taking his action. So he's just heard that and decided, okay, yep, sounds like a good idea. I want to get on this plane and go back home, go back to Godhead. But first, I need to do a couple of things. So this is this text and purport today. Purport. We should mark how dutiful Dhruva Maharaj was in his devotional service, even at the time he left this material world. He was constantly alert in the performance of devotional duties. Every devotee should take his bath early in the morning and decorate his body with tilak. In Kali Yuga, one can hardly acquire gold or jeweled ornaments, but the 12 tilak marks on the body are sufficient as auspicious decorations to purify the body. Since Dhruva Maharaj was living at that time at Badarik Ashram, there were other great sages there. He did not become puffed up because the airplane sent by Lord Vishnu was waiting for him. As a humble Vaishnava, he accepted blessings from all the sages before riding on the plane brought by the chief of the Vaikuntha associates. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. The great sage Maitreya continued, Maharaj Dhruva was very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he heard the sweet speeches of the Lord's chief associates in the Vaikuntha planet, he immediately took his sacred bath, dressed himself with suitable ornaments, and performed his daily spiritual duties. Thereafter, he offered his respectful obeisances to the great sages present there and accepted their blessings. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. So there's two main points that I got out of this particular purport. The first one being that Dhruva Maharaj performed his prescribed daily duties even at the time of leaving this material world. So that was the first point. And the second point was that Dhruva Maharaj lived in the association of other great sages. So he performed his devotional service nicely. He stayed in the association of devotees, unlike Bharat Maharaj, who went off, and even though he was on the platform of Bhav, because he wasn't in the association of devotees, he made a mistake and he fell down. But I may not touch on that second point today. I'm only going to focus on the first point, and we'll see if we've got time left to go any further. So this first point, Dhruva Maharaj performed his prescribed daily devotional duties even at the time of leaving the material world. And then Srila Prabhupada further adds that he was constantly alert in the performance of devotional duties. It's a nice expression, constantly alert. Constant means always, and alert means you're paying attention. So I was thinking that'd be nice japa to have, constantly attentive japa. But anyway, this pastime shows, it's quite an interesting point, because the plane's right there. The Vishnu Dutas are right there. You're going back to Godhead, but still he's like, no, wait, I've got to take my bath. I've got to, do my daily sadhana. I've got to do these things. It's quite far out to think about that someone's that dedicated to their daily duties, that even the Vishnu Dutas with the plane are right there and still you're doing them. So Dhruva Maharaj, by his example, he's showing us how diligently we should perform our devotional service. Our chanting of Hare Krishna, our reading of Srila Prabhupada's books, our attending of Mangala Arati, all these we should perform daily. But in some cases, it may not be possible. For example, I'm sure many of you joining today aren't at the temple, so you're not able to attend Mangala Arati, for example. But we should have a bare minimum that we follow. And I was hearing Vaisheshika Prabhu relay this recently. We should have a set bare minimum that we basically stick to every day. Now, all of us who are either initiated or are aspiring to be initiated, we all have a bare minimum, which is following the 4 regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds. But individually, we may add a little bit more. So, for example, Vaisheshika Prabhu says, read a certain number of pages of Srila Prabhupada's books every day. For ourselves in the Brahmachari ashram, we have a standard where we have to read 2 hours of Srila Prabhupada's books, or connected books that are supporting Srila Prabhupada's books, 2 hours every day. Now, for many people, that's not possible to read 2 hours every day, but in our situation, it is possible, and it's the order of our spiritual master, so we have to do it, basically. Otherwise, we're not following the orders of the spiritual master, and that's the 3rd offense of the holy name. So we have to stick to our prescribed duties. So we have a bare minimum, whatever that is. Try to stick to it. Understand where you're at, what your situation is, and have a bare minimum that you can follow. Even if it's just following the 4 regular principles and chanting 16 rounds, at least do that much. Of course, if someone's new to bhakti, a new bhakta, remember Bali Daityaraj, some of you here may know. Remember when he was first coming along, he just realized he couldn't do 16 rounds. He was quite intelligent, and he just stuck with 8 rounds. And because he knew he could do that daily, so he thought, this is my bare minimum. I will do 8 rounds every day. That's what I can stick to. And he did it. And eventually he moved in with devotees and got up to 16 and became initiated, etc., etc. But the point being, have a bare minimum and stick to it. So whatever service we have, we can show Krishna how serious we are by dutifully carrying it out through thick and thin. As Vaisheshika Prabhu, His Grace, would say, if we do that, that helps us develop spiritual blood. In other words, it builds our integrity, determination, and our character. We get enthusiasm, we get energy if we can stick to something. So that bare minimum that we have, if we can do it daily, if every day we can do it, we can get encouragement. Yes, I can do this. It's possible. And then maybe I can even do a bit more, that I've been able to hit this goal consistently every day for the past week, for the past month, for the past year. Maybe I can do a bit more now. Now let's hear what Krishna has to say about prescribed duties. As he says in Bhagavad Gita, kings such as Janak attain perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. In this way, by performing prescribed duties, two things are accomplished. So first of all, Krishna is saying we can attain perfection simply by carrying out prescribed devotional service. And that's our whole practice of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. We're trying to attain perfection simply by carrying out the orders of the spiritual master, following the four regular principles, chanting 16 rounds, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, attending Mangala Arati, doing outreach, all these different things. We can attain perfection if we keep continuously, day by day, do these activities. And secondly, Krishna is also saying we should do our prescribed devotional activities to set an example for others. And I like what Vaisheshika Prabhu, His Grace, was saying about book distribution. You may go out and do absolutely nothing, but just by the fact that you're out there, people see you trying to give Krishna to others, and that leaves a samskara. Whether or not you're successful or not, still people will see that this person is dedicated to this particular activity and they're trying to share it with others. And even if they aren't interested in talking to you that day or whatever, it leaves a samskara. Like, I wonder why that person does that. Maybe there must be something to it. And that just little thing that just got in their heart just then, there may be something to it. Even though they don't talk to you, next time they see you, they may speak to you. What was this all about anyway? So we should also do our prescribed devotional activities just to set an example for others. So this is what Janak Maharaj did, and it's also what Dhruva Maharaj did. Dhruva Maharaj may have attained perfection at 5 years old, but still, for the rest of his life, he executed his daily spiritual duties. So at 5, you're perfect, you've seen God, but still, 36,000 years more, he kept doing his daily spiritual duties. So this is setting the example. Now, I have an interesting section here that is a little bit different. So recently I heard a discussion between His Holiness Shivaram Swami and His Holiness Devamrita Swami. This was a couple of days ago. And I thought it was quite topical and hopefully relevant to somebody here. At least it's definitely relevant for myself. And in this discussion that Shivaram Swami and Devamrita Swami were having, they discussed the reality of sadhana bhakti. And in this conversation, Devamrita Swami often plays the role of a struggling devotee. And so I was thinking, yeah, I could relate to that. So this is just an excerpt. I've skipped some parts of it, so there are extra bits in between, but it was obviously too long a conversation. It was like 8 minutes long and I can't transcribe the whole thing. So this is just some excerpts from that conversation. And I thought I'd share this because it really just hits on the essence of practicing sadhana bhakti, and especially in the West, and the struggles one may have. So Shivaram Swami, we'll begin with him. He says, in the beginning, our business is to do our duty and have good sadhana, whether our emotions are in it or not. In other words, whether we feel like doing it or not. And Devamrita Swami says, that's a tough pill to swallow. And then he plays the role of a struggling sadhaka. What about me? What am I getting out of this? When am I going to feel something? Shivaram Swami, it takes time. Devamrita Swami, time? Why should I have to wait? I want to feel good right now, or at least next weekend. Shivaram Swami, Did Lord Chaitanya arrange it that you just chant Hare Krishna and you're there? In other words, that you're back at Godhead. It would be too cheap. It's too cheap. If you want something valuable, pay the price for it, or at least a token. Devaramrita Swami, he says, just his own comment, not acting as a sadhaka, struggling sadhaka. He says, we slave away to get money, heaps of money to travel, to buy a house, buy a car. So why can't we do that much for Krishna? And then Shivaram Swami asks a question. What about devotees who come face to face with how much they have to struggle to achieve some far off distant goal? So in other words, Krishna praying so far away from me. How am I going to get there? Maybe I should just give up now. Devaramrita Swami says, what should we advise them? Shivaram Swami, just stick with it. Devaramrita Swami says, taking the role of a struggling sadhaka again, just stick with it. I want to enjoy now. Shivaram Swami, devotees don't enjoy now because they don't read enough. When you read Chaitanya Charitamrita or Bhagavatam, you become surcharged. Your intelligence becomes illuminated. You feel substantial spiritual strength. If they don't read, they'll fall down. Devaramrita Swami, but I don't have time. I'm working so hard. There are the kids, family affairs, social media. Have mercy. I've got to fix the house, fix the car. There's the mother-in-law. Shivaram Swami says, some devotees do manage to do it very successfully. Those who are happy living with the necessities, not trying to compete with others and get more and more. Devaramrita Swami says, but those devotees who do well, they're special. They're mystic yogis. Shivaram Swami, we should not become a society of Kanishta Adhikaris. We're a preaching society, so we should become Madhyama Adhikaris at least. Devaramrita Swami, well, some will say that it's natural as the Krishna consciousness society expands, not everyone will have that intense commitment. Shivaram Swami, okay, do whatever you want. It's your decision. It's too childish a discussion for adults to be engaged in. You come to Krishna consciousness, make the arrangements, see it through, do the austerity, whatever it takes. Prabhupada's given such a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And if it's too much, take the association of other devotees. So that's the end of the discussion. So the conclusion being, Shivaram Swami, he was saying basically, it's up to you. We do what we want in our life. And if you really want to become Krishna conscious, then you'll make the arrangements in your life to become Krishna conscious. And if you still think it's too difficult, then he encourages one to take association of other devotees who are stronger than oneself, who can help one come to the standard, so to speak. So two prominent factors are key that have been coming up over the past few months in either classes I've given myself or lectures I've heard or reading that I've done. Somehow or other, these 2 points, two prominent factors have come up again and again. And that is that if we want to get strength, if we want to get enthusiasm, two things are key. First, we have to associate with devotees, especially those more advanced than us. That enthusiasm they have will rub off on us if we hang around them. And secondly, we have to hear about Krishna more. Whether that's Srila Prabhupada's books, Bhagavatam class, recorded lectures, kirtans, whatever, somehow or other we have to increase our hearing and chanting. So those are the two main things that have been popping up for myself over the past few months. And yesterday in Bhagavatam class at the temple, His Grace Prana Prabhu, he hit the nail on the head. He quoted Srimad Bhagavatam 3:25-25. This is Kapila Dev instructing his mother Devahuti. And he captures the essence of this point, which is, it's a very famous verse, and it begins, in the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. So that's the secret to taste. If we want to get taste for hearing and chanting, we have to hang out with those who have it. And Prana Prabhu was relaying how by hearing about Krishna and the association of such devotees, especially those who are more advanced than us, we gain faith, shraddha. And that's key. Everything begins with faith. The whole process of devotional service begins with faith. We get more faith, then we're more willing to do more hearing and chanting. We do more hearing and chanting, then we're more willing to do more devotional service. We do more devotional service, then we get more taste for hearing and chanting, so on and so forth. So in this discussion that I was just going through, His Holiness Shiva Ramaswamy said a similar thing. He said, first, we need to read Prabhupada's books, which is associating with the pure devotee and hearing and chanting about Krishna. And two, associate with devotees. That was his concession at the end. If everything's too hard, you need to hang out with devotees who are more advanced than you. In my own practice, I've definitely found it easier to execute bhakti by hearing about Krishna and the association of advanced devotees. Especially, I was noticing even the difference between hearing recorded lectures and hearing live lectures. I listen to a lot of His Holiness Deva Amrita Swami's lectures because he's my spiritual master, but I just noticed the difference in potency than when he's right there in front of me. I'm still very much attached to the Vapu. I'm not on the platform where I can just hear the Vani and go back home, get back to Godhead. I'm not there yet. So having them there in person, having my spiritual master there in person and hearing definitely has, for myself at least, some extra potency. And of course, he's addressing us as the audience, rather than when you hear a recorded lecture, he may be addressing a different demographic, a slightly different audience. So it may be slightly less relevant to oneself. Still good, but just emphasizes the point that if a great soul comes to your town, you should definitely try to turn up for it. There's some extra mercy there. And a nectar of devotion. There is a chapter number 10, and it's entitled Techniques of Hearing and Remembering. And I thought one time to myself, okay, this is the name of this chapter. Maybe it's got the hint for how to hear really good, how to hear properly. What am I doing wrong? How do I hear better? So I went through this chapter trying to mine or extract from it essence. What is the secret to hearing well? What is the technique? And for myself, when I went through it, I noticed two key things to increase the potency of one's hearing. And the two things are, no surprise. First, hear from advanced devotees. The words that are used in that chapter are things like great devotees or great acharyas. And secondly, hear continuously. The words used in the chapter are exactly that. One should be very eager to hear continuously. And the other one is something like always hear. So these two things, hearing from advanced devotees and hearing continuously, from what I understood from reading that chapter, you can read it yourself, chapter 10, Nectar of Devotion, the essence of successful hearing. So therefore, in conclusion, if we want to be diligent in executing our devotional service, if we want to follow in the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj, we should, first of all, associate with devotees, especially those more advanced than us. And secondly, hear about Krishna as much as possible, especially in the association of devotees. So as often it's said, when there's a class like this, I may be preaching to the choir. In other words, all of you already know all of this, but for the sake of strengthening my own practice, I'm saying it out loud. looking at the mirror, so to speak, and saying it to myself for reinforcement. But yeah, I mean, obviously we can share this with others who may not be doing so well in their Krishna consciousness. That just two simple things. Just need to hang out with devotees more and need to hear more about Krishna. That's the essence, really. So thank you very much for your attention today. I think maybe there's, was it 5 minutes for questions? Is that right, Nanda Braj Prabhu? Or comments as well?
Prabhu can go for 10 minutes. Yep.
10 minutes? Okay, I see Nalini Kant Prabhu has got his hand up.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandot Pranam.
Clapping.
Oh, looks like
Thank
Tushta
you.
Chaitanya's
Thank you for
Yeah.
nice
hidden to
lecture.
you.
It's a beautiful
Hare Krishna.
class from your side. Yeah, the 2 points you emphasize is the really great things. We often miss out these 2 points. First the point, hearing from advanced devotee. There we fail to do so. Often we don't take that an opportunity to make ourselves available to hear from the advanced devotee. And we try by ourselves, and there we get trouble. That's why we don't get the taste. As you said, hearing from advanced devotee gives us the real taste of the subject matter, because the experienced devotees, they can express the situation in a more interesting way, so that it attracts the center point of that subject. And the second thing, hearing continuously is a beautiful 2 points you mentioned, is very important. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for enlightening these 2 points from this text 28, where Dhruva Maharaj was maintaining the same thing. Even though he got the airplane ready to move on, but still he performed everything as you mentioned, associating, taking bow from this advanced devotee, offering obeisances to the seniors, and then he moved on. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna, thanks for your encouragement and comments, Prabhu. It's just the mercy of the spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada. They emphasize these points again and again, so that's why I've noticed them. Nalini Kant Prabhu, you had your hand up? Sorry.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. No Prabhu. Maybe mistake.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you, everyone. We still got a few minutes. Anybody have any comment, reflection, realization to share? Please come forward. That doesn't seem to be Prabhu. So end the class here. It's great. Gauranga Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Srimad Bhagavatam ki Gautam ni Revi. Vancha Karpadharvesha.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.